I am Bhikkhuni Dr. Lee. I am an American citizen, and I am ordained since my early 30s. Since I finished my PhD, as soon as I finished my PhD, I became a monastic, and I was motivated to become a monastic, changing experience. I like to call it potato chip awakening. When I was sitting on a sofa one day in Fort Lauderdale with my partner, and after we had been out swimming in the ocean, and we came back to the condo and watching the television, having a Pepsi, and just I saw something on TV that changed my life, and it was a small documentary, and it was about 7 people in the world who have done extraordinary humanitarian service. And one of them was a woman by the name of Kunyin Kanita Wichenchiren. And in that movie, I saw the work she was doing for women and children in Thailand. And it was so impressive to me. When I saw her face, in my heart arose an emotion and a thought that when she is older, I will go and I will follow in her footsteps, assist her in whatever way I can. So then I had to think for 18 months what I'm going to do with my partnership emotionally, how to become free of my emotional relationship, and so little by little disengage and ask permission for a separation. I want to become a monastic. And I researched her culture. I remember that I saw she came from Thailand, but I couldn't remember her name. It was a fast clip. And I did a lot of research, wrote to the television documentary company. They said they couldn't release any documents about her. So eventually my journey took me to Colorado, to a Thai temple, and I volunteered and I taught English there at Wat Buddha Wawaram in Denver. And I was the only female monastic, and I lived with about 5 male monks. And I taught them English. And one day the older monk said to me, "Really, why did you come here? What's the purpose?" And I said, "Well, really, I think in my heart I'm supposed to meet some woman." And he said, "Well, who is this woman?" And I told him what she did, the kind of work she did. And he went into the temple library and he took out a magazine in Thai and opened it and pointed to the picture, and he said, "Is that the woman?" I said, "That's the woman." And I said, "I'm supposed to meet this woman. Can you help me?" And he said, "Of course." And he went up to his room and got out a calling card and went to the phone on the wall and picked it up and dialed the number to Thailand and spoke to that woman. And then he made a connection between that woman and with me. And after that, we exchanged address. And then I began my monastic journey deeply, knowing that we had made contact and we knew each other. And I then began traveling to find a teacher who could teach me in English. Because at the Thai temple, none of the monastics could really speak English. I was their English teacher and they were on basic English. So I knew that I wanted to give back to her the greatest gift I could give to her. And I thought, considering her culture and as a woman with the work that she was doing, to help develop her country the most, give her back a gift in the form of the root of her culture, which is the religion. So I saw, okay, she's a Theravada Buddhist, Thai temple, Theravada Buddhism. They had white nuns called Mechis, but I didn't see any Bhikkhunis. So I thought, okay, this is, something important. And I therefore thought, okay, how to do this? And I began journeying and traveling, and I studied in Europe and France with the Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, and I studied in England with the Venerable Longpo Sameto. And I made my journey and studying Dhamma for many years before I went to Kunyin Kanita. By the time we first exchanged letters, she had ordained and I had ordained. So at the first conversation, we were lay women. She became a white-robed nun, and I became a saffron-robed nun. And when we exchanged pictures, we were really both shocked. And so then one day when I was meditating, after I finished meditating, I had a feeling in my heart, I better make contact to her. So I went to the temple office and asked them to place a call from England to Thailand. And they placed a call for me, and they got her secretary on the phone, who said that she was very sick and she was in hospital with breast cancer. So I said, oh, okay, now please help me make arrangements to go back to my country. I've studied enough. And so they helped me make arrangements to go back to America. And then from there I made arrangements to go to Thailand. And when I went to Thailand, I had just my bowl and my shoes, my robe, one robe, short sleeve shirt, a long sleeve shirt, 2 skirts. That was it. One bag, a carry bag. And I had faith in the goodness of humanity, that someone would meet me at the airport, and because I didn't have money to go anywhere else. So I thought, okay, I have the ticket, I go. And I went to Thailand, and she sent to the airport 2 white nuns and a woman driver. And that's where the journey began. And then I came to the shelter for women and children in Bangkok, and I worked there for 2 years, working with women and children with HIV/AIDS. A lot of the women came from here they call it sex work, but I don't know the right word anymore, because before we called it prostitution, because here they try to normalize it, but I don't think it's something normal, healthy. So a lot of the women there had AIDS from being in sex trade. That's the word I think is best, sex trade. And I saw children. And I still have memory of one little child called Jolo. And when I would come out in the morning from my dwelling and go walking around the campus of the shelter, the women's shelter, I would see Jolo. Jolo would run to me, and I would bend down, one knee to the ground, and I go like this, and Jolo would run and jump into my arms. And she was a beautiful little baby. And then Jolo died. And pretty heartbreaking. I saw like that, and I saw many people pass away. It's okay, but it was painful to see the child didn't do anything, and the child got AIDS from the mom. The mom is forced into sex trade, and then the kid gets born. It seemed like a really terrible injustice. So I just tried to keep making myself strong and do like that, keep making myself stronger to endure to the situation and hold on to the situation. I'm able to stay with my teacher for about 3 years, and about the second year, she starts to give me my new assignment, which is to work for developing these bhikkhunis. And the first 2 years, working at the shelter, and learning a bit of Thai and Thai culture and everything. And it was a real challenge at first, because I was placed in residence with the white nuns, and at first they didn't understand, and they wouldn't offer me food. So then I had to think, how am I going to get food to eat? So how are you going to get food to eat? Well, in America, you don't usually go on alms rounds, you know. The monastics in America stay in a temple. You don't usually go on alms rounds. So I went out, and I knew they were walking alms rounds. And so I watched them. I went and hid in the bushes, and I saw how they did it, you know. And then I watched them. And so one morning when they went out to collect the food, I went on the back of the line. I came out from the bushes, and I got on the back of the line because I saw them all walking. I said, I'm hungry, you know. And like the white nuns didn't want to feed me. Said they would go to the pond and give the food to the fish before they gave it to me. And so I thought, I have to eat. And I don't want to tell my teacher and upset her, you know, because she's very old and she's not well. So then I followed them, and when the white nuns saw me at the back of the line, they said, hey, you cannot walk at the back of the line wearing that robe. You must walk the first person of the line. So they stopped the whole process and put me at the front of the line. But of course, I don't know where to walk. I don't know where to go. So then they would just tell me, right, left, straight. So that's how I learned to have food in Thailand. And so I walked my alms rounds for many years in Bangkok. And then they told me, okay, now it's time. Master is very sick, and I visit her in the hospital, and she said her last teaching to me was 3 words, forgive, forgive, forgive. And those 3 words have enabled me to overcome many challenges, and I think they're good words. And it means that we integrate the experience of whatever it is, being satisfied with the interaction or dissatisfied with an interaction that might bring happiness or suffering, and we process it, integrate it, and then we let it go. And if we have to forgive, we forgive. We want to keep ourselves healthy, and we let it go. And we move on to do the good thing, to do the right thing that is going to bring forth benefit for other people. Okay, and not just for ourselves, but for other people. So when my master told me that, and then I thought, okay, they spoke to me and said, well, you have to select one white nun now. Because if the seed doesn't plant and land, how are we going to have these bhikkhunis here? So I picked the one nun who would at times offer food to me. She would get a fish, and then she knew how to take it apart, and no bones. Because they do it like that, and then she put a little bit of fish like that on the dish, and sometimes she would offer me some fish. I said, oh, this one is quite kind. She gives me a little bit of fish. She doesn't feed the food to the pond, so okay, this can work.